My people, let me ask you something real quick before we even start. Have you ever seen a grown man cry not because someone died, not because he lost money, but because he finally realized the woman he thought was his rib was actually the snake that bit him? I'm talking about tears of relief mixed with regret, the kind that comes when you escape something so toxic you didn't even know you were being poisoned until fresh air hit your lungs. That's the kind of confession we are unpacking today, and I promise you, by the time we finish this journey, you'll be calling your pastor, your therapist, and maybe even your ex just to confirm you dodged a bullet. Maurice sat there that rainy evening looking like a man who had been carrying the weight of Lagos traffic on his shoulders for years. This wasn't your regular heartbreak story. This was the kind of pain that changes your bloodline, the type that makes you question if love is even real or if it's just an elaborate scam we all agreed to participate in. So grab your popcorn, silence your phone, and let me take you through this roller coaster, because what I'm about to share will make you understand why some people say the wrong partner can kill you faster than malaria. Maurice was broke in 2008, and I don't mean he was managing or struggling a little bit. I mean the kind of broke where you're calculating if you should eat today or save that last 500 naira for transport to an audition tomorrow. The kind where your landlord knows your footsteps and hides behind the door waiting to ambush you with threats. He was an aspiring actor running from one audition to another, getting rejected so many times he started wondering if God made a mistake when he gave him the dream in the first place. Every morning he'd wake up with hope, put on his best shirt that he'd washed and ironed like it was a military uniform, and step out believing today would be different. But every evening, he'd drag himself back home with that same shirt now soaked in sweat and disappointment, his feet heavy, his spirit heavier. Acting was supposed to be his destiny, but at that moment it felt more like a cruel joke the universe was playing on him while laughing from heaven. Now enter Pearl, the woman who looked like she was photoshopped by angels themselves. This woman could walk into a room and suddenly every conversation would pause, every head would turn, and even the air would shift just to make way for her presence. She had the kind of beauty that could make a pastor stutter during altar call, the type that made grown men act like they forgot their home training. Maurice thought he had won the lottery when Pearl agreed to date him. He would look at her sometimes and wonder how he, a struggling actor with holes in his pocket, managed to bag a queen like this. But you see, my people, beauty without character is like a brand new car with no engine. It looks fantastic in the driveway, but it won't take you anywhere except into debt and regret. Pearl wanted the finished product, not the prototype. She wanted a man who could drop money like Davido, take her on vacations like she was an influencer, and buy her things that would make her friends jealous on Instagram. Maurice had none of these things, and Pearl made sure he never forgot it. The insults started small, like tiny needles you barely notice until they've poked enough holes that you're bleeding out. Maurice, your friend just bought his girlfriend a new phone. What exactly are you doing? She'd say while filing her nails like his poverty was boring her. Or she'd sigh dramatically while scrolling through Instagram and mutter, other men are taking their women to Zanzibar, and here I am stuck with someone who can't even afford Lekki Phase 1. At first, Maurice would try to laugh it off or promise that things would get better, that his breakthrough was coming, that she just needed to be patient. But Pearl wasn't built for patience. She was built for instant gratification, and every day Maurice couldn't provide it, she made him pay with her words. The arguments became as regular as nipper taking light. Morning, afternoon, night, didn't matter. Pearl always found something to complain about, something to compare, someone else's boyfriend to use as a measuring stick that Maurice could never reach. He started dreading coming home, started walking slower just to delay the inevitable confrontation waiting for him behind that door. What made it worse was that Maurice Sam genuinely loved this woman. He loved her with the kind of love that makes you stupid, the kind that makes you accept disrespect because you're hoping your loyalty will somehow transform them into the person you need them to be. He'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling fan that barely worked, listening to Paul's peaceful breathing beside him, and wonder why he wasn't enough. Was it really just about money? If he got money tomorrow, would she suddenly become kind? Would the woman he fell in love with come back, or was she never really there in the first place? These questions haunted him more than any audition rejection ever could. The worst part was maintaining the facade. You know how Nigerians are, we like to show that everything is perfect even when our lives are scattering like badly tied firewood. Maurice Sam would go out with friends, post pictures on social media with captions about staying focused and trusting the process, smile in group chats, crack jokes, do everything to convince the world that he was fine. But inside he was crumbling like old chin-chin, piece by piece, day by day. Paul didn't just attack his finances, she attacked his manhood, his confidence, his very essence as a human being. She'd make comments about how he wasn't man enough, how a real man wouldn't let his woman suffer like this, how she was tired of playing both the girlfriend and the bank. Sometimes she'd pay for things just so she could throw it in his face later. I bought dinner again. I paid for the Uber again. I'm carrying this relationship on my back while you're busy chasing a dream that clearly doesn't want you. Those words cut deeper than any knife because part of him feared she might be right. What if acting wasn't for him? What if he was delusional? What if he should just give up, find a regular job, and stop embarrassing himself? Paul was planting seeds of doubt so deep that they were starting to grow roots in his mind. He stopped believing in himself. He stopped seeing potential when he looked in the mirror. All he saw was failure wearing a fake smile. Then came Sonia, and let me tell you, this woman entered Maurice Sam's life so quietly you'd think she was trying not to wake a sleeping baby. No fireworks, no dramatic entrance, no love at first sight nonsense. It was at a charity event, the kind Maurice Sam had only attended because a friend dragged him there promising there might be industry people worth networking with. He was standing in a corner, trying to look busy on his phone so nobody would notice he didn't belong, when this woman walked up with a handshake and a smile that didn't feel forced. "Hi, I'm Sonia," she said, and Maurice Sam shook her hand not knowing that simple gesture was the beginning of his resurrection. There was something different about her energy. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, wasn't overdressed or underdressed, wasn't performing for an invisible audience. She was just present, genuinely present, and when she looked at him, it felt like she was actually seeing him, not looking through him or past him like he was furniture. They started talking, and Sonia asked him questions nobody had asked in years. Not, "What's your net worth?" or "What car do you drive?" but "What makes you happy? What do you dream about when nobody's watching?" Why acting? Maurice Sam found himself opening up in ways that surprised him. He talked about his passion, his struggles, his fears, and Sonia listened without judgment, without comparing him to anyone else, without making him feel small. She nodded, asked follow-up questions, and when he finished, she said something that shook him to his core. "You know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who hasn't given up. And anyone who keeps showing up despite the odds is already successful, they just haven't collected their prize yet." Maurice Sam went home that night and for the first time in months, he didn't have nightmares about failure. He dreamed about possibility. Over the next few weeks, Sonia became a constant source of encouragement. She wasn't trying to date him, wasn't trying to fix him, she was just being a friend who genuinely believed in him. Sonia's kindness wasn't the fake type that comes with conditions attached like terms and conditions on a loan agreement. It was authentic, the kind that made Maurice suspicious at first because he'd been conditioned to believe that nobody does anything without expecting something in return. But Sonia proved him wrong day after day. She'd check in on him, ask how his auditions went, celebrate his small wins like they were Grammy Awards, and when he failed, she never said, "I told you so," or "maybe you should try something else." Instead, she'd say things like, "That role wasn't meant for you because something better is coming." At first, Maurice thought she was just being nice, saying what people say to make you feel better. But the way she said it, with such conviction, such certainty, made him start believing it too. She had this gift of speaking life into dead situations, of seeing gold where everyone else saw garbage. The turning point came after one particularly brutal audition where Maurice had prepared for weeks, memorized every line, practiced every emotion, only to be told within 30 seconds that he wasn't what they were looking for. He walked out of that building feeling like his soul had been ripped out and stomped on. He didn't go home immediately. He just walked around Lagos, in the rain, not caring that he was getting soaked, not caring about anything really. When he finally dragged himself home, shoes squeaking with water, shirt clinging to his body like shame, he collapsed into a chair and said out loud to nobody in particular, "Maybe I should just quit. Maybe this is the universe telling me to stop embarrassing myself." Sonia, who had been waiting because she knew he had an audition, didn't rush to him with pity. She didn't baby him or pat his back. She sat across from him, looked him dead in the eye with the kind of intensity that made him sit up straight, and said, "Maurice, listen to me carefully. Don't you ever let one no, or 10 no's, or 100 no's make you quit on yourself. You are talented. You are gifted. And I don't say things I don't mean. One yes is coming, and when it comes, it will erase every single rejection you've ever experienced. That yes will change your entire life. I promise you." There was something about the way she said it that hit different. It wasn't hope, it was prophecy. Maurice broke down and cried like a baby that night, not from sadness but from relief. For the first time in years, someone believed in him so much that he started believing in himself again. That night, he slept peacefully for the first time in forever. Usually, his mind would replay every mistake, every insult from power, every rejection, every way he'd failed. But Sonia's words played instead like a lullaby. One yes will change your life forever. He woke up the next morning with something he hadn't felt in years, genuine hope. He cleaned himself up, wore his least wrinkled shirt, and told himself that today could be that day. Funny enough, that same week, he got a call for an audition. It was for a small role, barely 3 scenes, the kind he would have normally ignored because it felt beneath him. But he remembered Sonia's words, "Even small doors can lead to big rooms." So he went, gave it his all, and landed the role. That small role became the domino that knocked down every closed door in Maurice's career. The director noticed his dedication, recommended him to another producer, that producer introduced him to someone else, and suddenly Maurice wasn't just the struggling actor anymore. He was the rising star people were talking about in industry circles. His phone started ringing with opportunities. His Instagram followers started growing. Blogs began featuring him in actors to watch lists. Life was finally making sense, finally rewarding his years of suffering and persistence. But you know what they say, when you start shining, your ex suddenly needs sunglasses because they want to come back and enjoy the light they once said was too dim. Pearl heard through the grapevine that Maurice Sam was blowing up, and like a heat-seeking missile, she locked onto her target. One Saturday afternoon, Maurice Sam was at a mall in Surrey just minding his business, trying to buy something small for himself as a reward for his progress, when he heard that familiar voice that used to make his stomach knot with anxiety. Maurice. Oh my God, Maurice, is that you? He turned and there she was, Pearl, looking like she'd just stepped out of a photo shoot for expensive living. Designer bag, designer shoes, designer everything, standing there with that smile he used to worship. She rushed over, touching his arm with familiarity like they were still together, like she hadn't spent years destroying his confidence. Wow, you look so different. I've been seeing your pictures online. Oh. God has really blessed you. I'm so proud of you. Maurice Sam stood there not knowing whether to laugh or call security. Proud of him. This was the same woman who told him he'd never amount to anything, who made him feel like dirt, who abandoned ship the moment the waters got rough. Now she was proud. The audacity could power the entire national grid. Pearl didn't waste time. She started sending messages, commenting on his posts with heart emojis, liking old pictures from 2 years ago like she was doing research, sliding into his DMs with "I miss us" and "Can we talk? I made a mistake." Maurice Sam found himself in a confusion he didn't expect. Logic told him to block her immediately, but emotions don't follow logic. This was someone he'd loved deeply, someone whose approval he desperately wanted for years. Part of him felt vindicated, like, "See, I told you I'd make it," and another part felt tempted because familiarity is comfortable even when it was toxic. He started responding to her messages, not committing to anything but not shutting the door either. Sonia noticed the shift in his energy, but she didn't interrogate him. She simply asked, "Is everything okay?" And Maurice Sam, feeling guilty, admitted, "Pearl reached out." Sonia's face didn't change, didn't show anger or jealousy. She just nodded slowly and said words that haunted him for days, "The choice is yours, Maurice. But remember, not everyone who was part of your history deserves a place in your destiny." The real drama unfolded at an industry party in Lekki, one of those bougie events where everyone dresses to impress and network like their lives depend on it. Maurice Sam was invited as one of the rising talents, and Sonia accompanied him because she'd been his support system through everything. The venue was buzzing with celebrities, producers, directors, cameras flashing like lightning, music thumping, champagne flowing like it was water from heaven. Maurice Sam was networking, taking pictures, feeling like he finally belonged in spaces he used to only dream about. Then he saw her across the room, Pearl, in a gold gown that probably cost more than his old rent, walking toward him with the confidence of someone who owned the place. Before he could react, she was beside him, leaning close, touching his shoulder, laughing loudly at something he hadn't even said, positioning herself perfectly for the photographers who immediately started snapping. Within minutes, blogs were posting, Maurice Sam and ex-Pearl back together, with fire emojis and speculation running wild in the comments. Sonia stood at a distance, watching the scene unfold like a movie she wasn't part of. She didn't cause a scene, didn't march over and drag Pearl by her expensive weave, didn't announce her presence or demand attention. She simply stood there with the dignity of someone who knew her worth and refused to beg anyone to recognize it. On the drive home, the silence in the car was so thick you could cut it with a knife and serve it for dinner. Maurice Sam's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, his mind racing with thoughts, his heart torn between two worlds. He knew he had messed up. He knew that by entertaining Pearl, by not immediately shutting her down, by letting her position herself beside him like they were together, he disrespected the one woman who had actually stood by him when standing by him meant standing in struggle. That night, Maurice couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, replaying everything, comparing the two women, and finally, clarity hit him like cold water. Pearl had loved his potential success. Sonia had loved his struggling soul. The next evening, Maurice asked Sonia to meet him at that same small cafe where this whole story began, where he'd first sat in a hoodie looking like a man who'd given up on life. This time, he wasn't hiding. He sat up straight, looked Sonia in the eye, and spoke from a place so deep it felt like his ancestors were speaking through him. Sonia, when you met me, I was broken. Not just broke financially, but broken spiritually, mentally, emotionally. I had nothing to offer you except problems and poverty. Pearl wanted the finished product, the polished version, the successful man. But you saw something in the raw material. You believed in me when I was still under construction, when there was nothing attractive about my situation, when betting on me was the stupidest investment anyone could make. You spoke life into me when everyone else, including myself, had pronounced me dead. You gave me hope when hope felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. You pushed me to auditions I wanted to skip, celebrated wins so small other people wouldn't even notice, and never once made me feel less than a man because of my circumstances. Maurice's voice cracked with emotion as he continued, pouring out years of gratitude mixed with regret for even entertaining the thought of going backward. I can't lie, when Pearl came back, part of me felt tempted. Not because I still loved her, but because my ego wanted her to see what she missed, wanted her to regret treating me like trash. But you know what I realized? That's exactly what she is, my past, my pain, my lesson. You are my future, my peace, my blessing. Pearl saw my potential and ran away from it. You saw my potential and watered it every single day until it grew. How can I choose someone who abandoned me at my worst over someone who built me at my lowest? That would be the biggest betrayal, not just to you, but to myself and everything we've built together. I'm sorry for even making you question where you stand. You don't stand anywhere, Sonia. You sit on a throne in my heart, and I'm ready to honor you the way you've honored me. Sonia's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of vindication, of finally being chosen by someone who now understood her value. She reached across the table, took his hand, and said softly, "That's all I ever wanted, Maurice. Not your money, not your fame, not your success. I just wanted you to see yourself the way I've always seen you, as someone worthy of love, respect, and every good thing life has to offer. I never competed with Pearl because I wasn't trying to win you. I was trying to help you win yourself back. And now that you have, now that you see your own worth, everything else will fall into place." In that moment, surrounded by the smell of coffee and the soft hum of other people's conversations, Maurice made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He chose peace over performance, substance over style, real love over fake loyalty. My people, if this story didn't shake something in you, check your pulse because you might be spiritually unconscious. This is not just Maurice's story, this is a mirror for all of us. How many of us are holding on to Pearls when we have Sonia's right in front of us? How many of us are chasing people who only want us when we are successful instead of appreciating those who wanted us when we had nothing but dreams and faith? Listen, the person who stands with you in the storm is more valuable than the person who shows up for the sunshine. The person who believes in you when you're nobody is worth more than everyone who celebrates you when you're somebody. Maurice almost made the mistake of letting his past poison his future, but thank God he woke up before it was too late. Some of you reading this right now are in relationships with people who drain you, break you down, make you feel worthless, and you're staying because you think that's what love is supposed to feel like. Let me tell you something for free, love is not supposed to hurt every single day. Love is supposed to lift you, challenge you to be better, yes, but never destroy you. If the person you're with makes you feel smaller instead of bigger, makes you doubt yourself instead of believing yourself, constantly compares you to others instead of appreciating your unique journey, my brother, my sister, that's not love. That's captivity with good packaging. Now, I need you to do something for me right now, and I'm not asking, I'm begging. Hit that subscribe button like your breakthrough depends on it, because honestly, the lessons we share on this channel might just save your destiny. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been in Maurice's shoes? Have you ever had to choose between someone from your past and someone building your future? Or maybe you're the Sonia in someone's story, pouring into them while they are still looking back at their pal. Share your experience, because somebody reading your comment might find the courage they need to make the right choice. And please, I'm on my knees begging you, share this video with that friend who's stuck in a toxic relationship thinking it will get better. Sometimes people need to hear someone else's story to recognize their own situation. If this message blessed you, if it opened your eyes, if it made you think differently about the people in your life, then don't be stingy with the share button. Spread this wisdom like it's the last pure water in Lagos traffic. Until we meet again in the next story, keep your heart open but your eyes sharp, keep your faith strong but your standards higher, and remember that the right person doesn't just love you, they grow you. God bless you, and may you never settle for a pal when God has already assigned you a Sonia.